I want to welcome today the Reverend Ryan Slifka. Ryan is minister at St. George's United Church in Courtenay, where together with Ingrid Brown, he is leading a growing, vibrant, socially engaged congregation. It's a pleasure to say those things. He's also a graduate of the Vancouver School of Theology in 2013. Ryan serves on the Theology, Interchurch, and Interfaith Committee of the United Church of Canada. And in 2019, he was a co-winner of the TAG Award, Thoughtful, Engaged, and Generous Christian Leader Award from the Vancouver School of Theology. This award is given to graduates who exemplify the core mission of the school and who are in the first 10 years of ministry. So we're really glad that Ryan could give us some time today to talk about what's going on lately for him as he ministers in a congregation during the COVID-19 pandemic. So Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. And before we continue, I'd like you to say some more nice things about me. If you'd like to make this whole interview about saying nice things about me, I would not be opposed.
I'll go to the other side of the sheet then. So Ryan, what are some of the biggest challenges and then some of the opportunities that have presented themselves to you as a leader in a congregation during COVID-19?
I think the most obvious thing, which is on everybody's mind, is that we can't physically be together. And I've seen a lot of memes that say, "Well, the church is not the building, and the church is not here; they're on mission." But I think that sometimes there's some truth to that, but there's a little bit of we need to be able to be physically together, and we depend so much on that face-to-face gathering and contact that even if you have a small group or a house church, that's something that wasn't even a possibility. So I think that that's the biggest challenge that the church has faced.
What's missing when you can't do that, Ryan? So what's missing when you can't be together in person? I find this interesting. I'm delighted by this line of thought.
Yeah. Well, number one, cash. That's one thing. You can't pass cash without being in person, which has been a huge thing for churches in the global South, actually. But I think that there really is something about gathering in person that is built into our fabric as human beings. I think that we're made to be in communion with God and each other. It's how we're made, what we're made for. God became flesh in Jesus. He looked 12 disciples in the eye. He touched people. He embraced them. He healed them. He took on human life and all of its characteristics. And I think that really does say that, God didn't create us as isolated individuals, but as a group of a body, a Christ body, a group of people, a community. So I really think that's why there's a longing in us to be together with others and intimacy.
Thanks for that. So that's one of the things that you miss. So that's a challenge to kind of compensate for that in whatever ways we can in the meanwhile. But have you noticed any opportunities coming out of this? What's changed that may be good for church?
I think that, two things come to mind. The first is that it's kind of forced a quick adaptation by churches to technology and live streaming, not just church leaders, but congregants as well. We didn't broadcast our services prior to this, but it's going to kind of force that. I like that one meme that said that basically overnight mainline pastors became televangelists. It really has forced us to engage online in a medium, and not just to help our congregants experience worship, but it is a tool for evangelism. I mean, we have there are people attending our services on Zoom and on Facebook, viewing on Facebook Live that have never. I mean, I got a criticism from somebody that wasn't. I usually just get that from congregants, but I got a criticism from a complete stranger about a sermon. But it is a tool for evangelism that I think is we're being forced to adopt it and adapt to it. So that's a real positive. The second thing is, it's sort of forced us to examine, the shallowness of our communities. We're competing with every other church service in the world now, and if we're who's going to come see our poorly put together service when geography is no longer on our side? If we haven't cultivated the types of strong community and engagement where people are invested in each other's lives, then it's just about the show. And so many people can do the show better than us. So that I think that's a real. I mean, it's a negative in one sense because we're competing with everybody, but it's really positive to get to the core values and purpose type things.
I have a friend who said, virtual church, if that's all you've got, it requires virtually nothing of you. Right? And that engagement with the community that you started with, what things have you done to keep that engagement live? I mean, apart from the service.
Well, I mean, one of the things is actually in regards to the service, because we do the service by Zoom, right? And we've thought, well, maybe we should go to just a stream. The quality would be better, but the fact that people can see the faces of leaders participating in different ways, that's not just me. We've done some old-fashioned things, like we've gone to, the old-fashioned phone tree. We've got volunteers who are partnering up with people and calling them every week. We're delivering devotionals to people who are in long-term care. We've gone to Zoom for, like, we've got a Zoom. They're basic things that we did before, but we've got a Zoom Bible study. We've got a prayer service, a prayer group. We've got, a children's ministry thing as well. That's separate. So it's something old and something new. Something borrowed from Zoom.
Very nice. So what do you expect? So these changes have come. Some have challenged our being together, and others have provided another way of being together. And you've managed to sort of use some longer term technology to keep in touch with people. What do you think might permanently change for the church and your congregation in particular? I mean, you said you weren't online before. Will you continue to do online services after this, or when the coast is clear, will you go back to the in the flesh experience for those who attend?
Well, I think we've been discussing right now. Our worship committee was discussing how basically we're going to be making streaming and an online presence a permanent part of our ministry. We're going to go back to in the flesh worship. There's no substitute. I mean, I call worship now. I call it our field rations. This will get us through. But we're all just wanting to be sitting at a table, enjoying the real meal together. But it will extend. Like we will. Our goal is. I mean, we're going to make some financial investments in the right equipment to make that possible. But also thinking about ways that we can engage in ministry, maybe online. In ways that we hadn't before. Even just the fact that people can engage in the comment box, on a Sunday might be something that's really positive and builds community. I mean, like I said, the evangelism piece for me is kind of the biggest thing coming out of it, because people with the internet, you don't have to commit, right? I mean, and this is one of the worst things about our culture, is that commitment is like the hardest thing to get. Flakiness all around, myself included. But it allows people to sort of take a peek into your community before they actually show up, and it can remove anxiety. It can see, and then they can hear the gospel, which is, the most important the most important thing. So
I've heard a number of people say that they like the online technology when it thickens community. In other words, when it functions to include people that couldn't otherwise be included, but they grow suspicious of it when it thins community. In other words, it makes being present to other people a kind of convenient. It all becomes a matter of convenience. What do you think of that distinction?
I totally agree. As seen as like something that enhances community. I mean, and brings people in. I received the most beautiful note of my entire ministry, typed on a typewriter by an 89-year-old man with some biblical quotes. But he talked about how his wife who has been homebound for the last 4 years. Her son had set it up so they watch Zoom on their big screen TV, and he said in this note that it's the first time he heard her sing in 3 years, 3 or 4 years, and she was singing "Will Your Anchor Hold" along with the service on, and I mean that brought a tear to my eye. I mean it was absolutely beautiful, and those sorts of things just show that. I mean, she's part of the community because she was part of it for 40 years, right? And then she's homebound now and unable to actually come physically, just unable. And now, I mean, she's able to actually, worship alongside the community of saints together.
Oh, wonderful! That's
so beautiful.
That's a great story. Do you think then that sometimes the technology is working well when people already know each other, because it's not entirely a group of strangers. People on the screen have a previous relationship with each other, and so it's a little warmer than it might otherwise be.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that's like I said, the reason why we kind of do Zoom is a little bit more lo-fi, but it doesn't have the rest doesn't have that personal touch and that personal connection. Like I said, we can't really compete with, Hillsong worship or whatever XYZ Christian apologists unfolding in beautiful HD. It really is that relational piece that is I think the mark of a true church and not a consumer experience. And I think that's why a lot of the technology has been working for people, because they already know the people, and it's a sense of, I wear a gown, I didn't usually wear a gown. I used to wear a suit, but now I wear a gown because I'm like, it's churchy, remember being in church. Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I mean, part of it is the nonverbal communication doesn't come through so well. So those clues that sound to me to be really important to establish that. But I think, when you're talking about the church, there's a lot that's going on that challenges us to think about our ecclesiology. What is the church? And in particular, what's the local church when you can zoom in to New York City or Los Angeles or Toronto? What difference does it make that this church is in this community?
And I think that's maybe something that's really on our side in this. I think that it's on the physical is on the church's side in this. I mean, I think that the internet, unfortunately, has been a Gnosticizing force, if I'd like to use a phrase, alongside with globalization. People feel alienated from real concrete places, and they're just tired of it. And the church can and will continue to give a real embodied concrete outpost of grace in the neighborhood, the physical, and in ways where people can't get that elsewhere. So,
I find that a lot of at the university and in other places, a lot of the online, the absence of people to each other physically. It's amazing how many resources we're marshaling around mental health to help people cope with a kind of artificial existence in some ways, because it's not normal. It's not what people are used to. Somehow, as you said earlier, we kind of need each other's proximity and presence. I'm a Presbyterian, but I've come to believe in real presence.
The true presence of Christ.
A final question, Ryan. What about theological educators and preparation? So, I mean, who would have known that when you graduated, 2013, that we would be experiencing here in 2020, 7 years later, this pandemic? But quick changes often need to be made in ministry to not always just accommodate, but to minister in particular sets of circumstances. How do you think or what can we do as theological schools to teach people leadership that requires a kind of innovation for times like this, to think on your feet and not get dispirited by it? What did you take from your theological education, and what might we layer on to help with that?
Well, I think that, I go back to my leadership course with Keith Howard, which, I think the Ron Heifetz's book, Leadership on the Line.
Yeah.
I think that, he makes a difference between adaptive and technical changes. And I think that when, I think that theological schools shouldn't worry about training their ministers in technologies so much, because that's not really what they're in the business of. These are skills that you can find and pick up elsewhere. And if you're a millennial, as time goes on, more people in church will, after this, more people will sort of be a little bit more attuned to technology.
Yes.
But I think that it's building on those sorts of the adaptive changes, the start with why questions, keeping the main thing.
Yes.
I think that trying to help leaders focus on what truly matters, like the gospel, changing lives, making disciples of Jesus, and equipping them to be able to keep that in the front of their ministry at all times. I think that our danger with stuff like this is that, and my danger too, I think, was getting caught up so much in the little detail things about how are we going to do this, how are we going to do that, but having confidence in God and the work of the Spirit, that somehow God will give us the gifts to be the church where we need to be, as long as we have the right message, the right sense of our own selves as disciples and our mission, then I think the other stuff really falls into place much more easily.
A friend of mine says the thing that he has learned from this is that people can change.
Those of us in the Reformed tradition have been, very reluctant to say that people can change. But by the grace of God, part of that is, Brueggemann has a great quote that's something like, he said to a bunch of pastors, he said, "The world you were carefully preparing yourselves for is being taken away from you by the grace of God." And I think that that's part of it too. It does suggest just the incredible stress that change puts on all of us. So I sort of have so much more sympathy for all those old church people that I was like, oh, these people need to be, these people really need to change their ways and open. But you know what? The world is changing so quickly, and maybe the church, not its structures, not its particular ways of doing things, but maybe the gospel needs to be that foundation that people can cling to in times like these.
Yeah, you wake up on Easter, and it's not like an Easter you've ever had before. It's all kind of like the first Easter. It was disorienting.
They didn't have Cheerios though, and they didn't have flannel pajamas, and but isolated, away from each other for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for taking this time to speak with me about these matters. This is a real learning experience for me. It's a principal of a theological school, to know, how is it that we equip people? I really appreciate, keeping the main thing, and not getting all locked up in, multiple possibilities, which, as you say, when I need help with technology in the classroom, like I'm not teaching technology. Almost everybody in the classroom knows more about it than me. I'm learning from them on that front. But to keep the main thing, to pronounce the good news, which is the calling of clergy and God's people in every time. I really appreciate the way you put that. So I wish you a great day. Thanks for your time.
And you as well. Thank you, Richard.
Okay.